Well, where you are, but where I've been, and I've slept in 4 states in the last week, it has started to get cold. In fact, tonight I've got a freeze warning. Welcome to the live stream. I'm Joni Zander, content creator and road guide here at TheGalavan. I help women get on the road and become successful nomads. Before we dive into tonight's topic, though, I have an exciting announcement. Next week, for the live stream, we'll be on at 1 p.m. Pacific, which is 4 p.m. Eastern, because I have an awesome guest who is currently on the East Coast. Kate White from the RV Queens podcast will join me to share how to start a podcast. She's an engaging interviewer, and I'm excited to turn the tables and learn more about her and her business. And I think you're really going to love hearing from her. And as always, if you find these videos helpful, please share them, click the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Now, it feels like just a few weeks ago, I was sharing how to stay cool in your rig. And tonight, I'll be sharing ways you can stay warm, from low tech to installing a heater. So let's get into it. So my first tip is to park in the sun during the day. Heat up your rig with the sun. So, it cools down at night. And if you can get to a place where you can get some solar gain, and then when you're in the sun, make sure that your windows are not covered. It's kind of like the opposite of what you're doing when you're trying to stay cool, right? Go to lower elevations and possibly go south to get warmer temperatures. And I did share before, but my favorite app for seeing where to go is Ventusky. And with that, I can see a pretty good swath of where it's going to be warmer or cooler, and so I can head there. All right. So in the evening, once the sun goes down, you want to cover your windows and doors with insulated window covers or quilts. So what I like to do, I have this big back door with 2 windows. I have these insulated window covers that I've made. You can also buy window covers that are already made for your rig. And then when it's really cool, I will use magnets and put a quilt up or a blanket up. Even just a Mexican blanket helps a lot. With that, make your space smaller. So I have a curtain behind my front seats so that because the part that gets the hottest and coldest with the outside temperatures is the cab itself. And so by creating a barrier, I have a curtain that is doubled. It's a blackout curtain on one side and a decorative curtain on the other, and so I'll draw that and just clothespin it to keep it closed, to keep all of that fluctuating air in the cab area. And if it's really, really, really cold, what you can do is you can tent your bed so that you're just heating a small, small space in your rig. So, so if you can figure out a way to hang a curtain just at the foot of your bed or at the head of your bed and kind of insulate yourself around when it's really extreme. Also, layer up. You can see right here. So I have a merino wool shirt on. I've got a flannel shirt on. I've got a puffy jacket. I have a wool buff, a wool hat. I've got heavy pants on. I've got wool socks on and wool slippers. So kind of head to toe in wool right now. Some people love to use down booties, and those can be really effective. One thing to know about down, and I'll reiterate this again, is that down uses your body heat and it just insulates your body heat. So you don't want a lot of layers in between you and down. Okay, so another option is a down comforter. And that again, if you are sleeping in down, a down sleeping bag or a down comforter, don't bundle yourself up in clothes. Just go to sleep in very minimal layers. I wear a tank top and underwear all year long. I do caveat though, I do sleep warm myself, so as soon as I lay down, my internal temperature seems to shoot up. But, um, even without that, if you're using a down comforter, you don't wanna bundle up. You want it to be able to because it uses your body heat to keep you warm. Another thing that you can do, is or one thing that I really, makes a big difference for me is just before bed, I make sure that my feet are warm, before I get into bed. No matter what it takes to get my feet warm, I need to get my feet warm before I go to bed, because once I go to bed, I can't seem to warm them up. So, but I'll have a whole section on just bedtime here in a minute. Um, you can also use 12 volt or rechargeable or, depending on what your electrical availability is. So 12 volt, USB, 120, whatever is available to you. There are blankets, vests, jackets, socks even that are rechargeable. There are even rechargeable hand warmers. Uh, okay, so bedtime. Um, if it's really cold, try to eat a high-fat snack in the evening with a little cinnamon. Cinnamon has some properties that elevate your body temperature. With that said, avoid spicy foods and hot drinks that'll make you sweat right before you go to bed. You don't wanna go to bed sweating, because you're gonna cool down faster if you've been sweating. That's what sweating is for. But the high fat snacks, like maybe some nuts, maybe some cinnamon roasted nuts, maybe some avocado, something like that can be really good for burning your body, basically. Your body will burn that and create more energy. Also change out of your clothes, right before bed, especially your socks. This has to do mostly with the sweat thing. So even if you don't feel like you've been sweating, you probably have. And so you want to not have sweat in your clothes and your socks before you go to bed. So if you are wearing socks to bed, make sure that they're clean socks. I highly recommend wool, although I did just hear about merino and possum socks. Apparently, possum fur is super duper warm. Never heard of them before. They're also very pricey. If you are using a sleeping bag, you want to make sure that, so sleeping bags have different ratings, different temperature ratings, and you need to know whether it's whether it's a survival rating or a comfort rating, first of all. If it's a survival rating, then you want to go you want to go probably 20 degrees lower than the survival rating. If it's a comfort rating, you probably want to go about 10 degrees lower. I don't know why they rate them that way, but that's a pretty universally accepted truth that you need to go lower on your sleeping bag than what the ratings are. Okay, so let's talk about your bed and your sheets and things. So if you're using a flannel sheet, if you sleep cold, if you get really cold at night, flannel sheets can be really helpful. A lot of people recommend fleece sheets, but those are polyester usually, and so that's not my favorite for sleeping on. You can also use I'm totally losing my words here. A sheep, oh my gosh, sheep fleece mattress pad, and you can sleep directly on that, and that will make it feel nice and warm. You can wear a hat to bed. I wouldn't recommend this kind of hat. This is a little much of a hat. But if you do want to wear a hat to bed, just a nice light hat can keep a lot of your body temperature in. Let's see, I already mentioned making sure your feet are warm. Okay, so some ways to warm your bed before you get in it. One would be a hot water bottle. And you can do the old-fashioned, rubber hot water bottle by warming some water on your, however you warm water, your stove, kettle, whatever. They also have electric hot water bottles, and I'll have links in the description for a lot of the stuff that I'm mentioning. So that's one way to heat up your bed. They even have long, skinny hot water bottles that are specifically for, like, putting in your sleeping bag. There are 12-volt mattress pads or electric blankets. There are USB mattress pads or electric blankets. And there are 120-volt mattress pads and blankets. So a lot of people will turn those on just before they go to bed for 5 or 10 minutes just to take the edge off. Another thing that you might want to think about doing, and I do this a lot because I don't use a heater, and I can tell that story, but put tomorrow's clothes in your bed so that you can warm them up, and then you'll be putting warm clothes on in the morning. So that is way better than putting on really cold clothes in the morning. Park with your windshield so that it will be in the sun in the morning, so that you can get as much solar gain in the first thing in the morning as possible. Okay, so let's talk about types of heaters. So the first category are heaters that you don't have to install. So there's a bunch of propane heaters. There's the little buddy or the big buddy. There's also some propane heaters that are propane heaters and stoves. You just want to make sure that they are rated for indoor use. And I believe with the propane heaters, you do need to crack windows. I opted not to go with propane because of all the condensation that they create. You could also use a butane stove. There's one called a Covia that I know people really like. I don't know if they have the same condensation problem as propane, probably. I have a little ceramic personal heater. Mine's only 250 watts, and but it doesn't heat a lot of space. You put it like right in front of you, and you can maybe hold your hands in front of it. It doesn't create a lot of heat. Something that creates a lot of heat that's electric is going to take a lot of electricity. So those are some of the options for heaters that don't require any insulation whatsoever. A lot of people start out with the little buddy or a big buddy heater and quickly get rid of them because they're afraid of them tipping over. They use up a lot of the little green propane bottles, and they don't like the condensation. So yeah, I actually don't know anyone who started with a little buddy and continued with it. Oh no, I take that back. I do have one friend who's been on the road for a very long time who still uses one of those. Okay, so minimal installation would be something like an Olympian wave heater. So this is a propane heater that you attach to your wall or cabinet, and it's a little bit more radiant. And I'm sure that there are others. These are just the ones that I know about. So if you know of other heaters that I am not mentioning, please drop them in the comments for other people, especially if you have good experience with something that you recommend, or if you have a heater that you've tried that didn't work like you wanted it to. Let us know what that heater is and what didn't work about it, or what you like about your heater. Okay, let's go on to the fully installed heaters. So I have an S-Bar diesel heater. I'm in a diesel van, and the van that I'm in even had a little port in the fuel tank to add an S-Bar heater. So it was kind of built for it. I haven't been super happy with it. I mean, when it's working, it's great. It heats up the van like that, and it's so nice to be able to turn it on in the morning and just just have a nice cozy place. And my first year on the road, I spent Christmas in the Portland area, and we had an ice storm, and I was perfectly comfortable in my van. It was so cozy and I loved it. But the S-Bar, at least my S-Bar, and I know a lot of other people have had problems with S-Bar heaters, they, they get, they get a lot of carbon buildup, and so then they'll start spewing out white smoke, and then you have to clean them, which is fine, you know, maintenance, that's fine. But mine especially tends to like try to start, and then it'll maybe start on the third time, but if it doesn't start on the third time, then my carbon monoxide detector is going off. So that I don't really love about it. And a year and a half ago, I went to Thermo King to get it repaired and maintained. And the guy was like, okay, you're ready for 2 more years. You'll be fine. It lasted for 3 cycles. And the fan, I don't know what happened, but the fan ended up being off kilter. This was on my, so of course, you know, I'm 3 states away by the time I find out that it's not working. So I am not able to go back. And so I was headed to Alaska, was really hoping to have heat in Alaska in the summer. That's when I stopped at the Canadian Superstore and bought that little ceramic heater that I was telling you about. So I haven't had a heater, like a built-in heater, since then. And I went all last winter. I think I've gotten down to maybe 25 degrees outside without a heater, and it's been fine. I do have, so the things that I have personally on board, I have a 120 electric blanket that I will use very rarely. I think I've used it for myself maybe, I don't know, a handful of times. One thing that I really like to do when it's cold is, and it's sunny and I have a lot of electricity, or I'm going to be driving, is I will turn on my water heater. Again, anything that heats really effectively takes a lot of electricity. So my water heater is electric. It takes a lot of electricity, but it is such a luxury to be able to wash my face and wash my body and my hands and things in the morning with hot water. So, okay. So anyway, that's my story, and the ceramic heater, and yeah, and then how I'm dressed usually. I do have also a down throw that I like to use sometimes if it's really chilly. I'll just put it on when I'm just hanging out. Okay, so other fully installed heaters are the Webasto, and those come in gas or diesel. They're very pricey. As far as I know, the people I've talked to who have the Webasto really like them. And then there's the Chinese diesel heaters. I've heard pretty good things about those. In fact, I don't know that anyone that I've interviewed that has those. I think they've all been pretty happy with them. There are other propane heaters that are installed and that sort of thing if you have more of an RV type of rig. I'm not as familiar with those. Well, I have had RVs before. I've had little trailers that have had propane heaters, and I never used them because they were so loud. Well, I used them once to find out how loud they were, and then I never used them again because they were so loud. But I'm sure that there are other options. Again, if you know of some great options, please drop those in the chat and let us know about those. All right, so if you have any questions, please let me know. Now is time for questions, and I do realize that there is a little bit of a lag, so I'll go through here. Love this. Perfect timing, as in the next hours expecting 2 inches of snow. Oh my gosh. Wow. That seems really early, but yeah. Here we have Exie saying that she found a wool blanket for $1. Nice. Yeah. So one thing, I do like a well-made bed. That is one of the things that I do for myself in the morning is I make my beds because I love getting into a well-made bed. I do like to have a bottom sheet, a top sheet, a wool blanket, and a comforter. If it's really, really cold though, I'll actually switch the wool blanket and the comforter so that the wool blanket is helping the comforter insulate so that it's the because remember the down comforter uses my body heat to keep me warm. So I switch it around. Um, Someone says, Buddha Pepper says, I've heard you shouldn't run an electric blanket off a power bank like a Jackery or Yeti. I don't know. I don't use a power bank, so I am not aware of that. So that is something to look into for sure. Thank you. Um, oh, this is interesting, Celia. Thank you. I used to wonder why I was so cold at night after drinking wine while playing cards. It turns out that alcohol expands the capillaries and body heat escapes. Okay, so no drinking before bed. Um, all right. Any other questions or comments? I love these. Thank you so much for joining us. Ah, we have a vote for Havlar wool insulation. Um, has helped keep me warmer. Yeah, insulating your van is definitely a good option. Um, and Carolyn has a mattress heater that's only 90 watts for a queen size bed. So that's a really great, efficient way to go. Because we are, it's so hard to figure out the balance between how much energy you have and how much warmth you get. And so if you can have a mattress heater that is only 90 watts and you're not going to, I wouldn't anyway, have it on all night. I would just turn it on to warm up my bed when it's super duper cold. Because again, I sleep warm. So I don't like to get into a warm bed, but being really cold is a little hard too. Okay, Monica says, I take the chill off by making a cup of tea at any time of day or night in my tiny trailer. Also, Army surplus wool blankets are inexpensive. And she puts the wool blankets under and on top. And yes, Army Army surplus is a really, really great way to get some really reasonably priced things for this sort of thing. So blankets, sleeping bags. I was reading a comment in one of my groups about sleeping bags that are they have a summer weight, a fall weight, and then you put the two together and it's the winter weight, and that gives you that extra insulation. So that is cool, and that was Army surplus as well. That was a veteran who was sharing that. Camping, a tent camping trick. Yes, the Nalgene bottle trick, filled to the top with boiling water. You fill the Nalgene bottle with boiling water. You screw the lid on super tight. You put it in a sock so that you're not touching the really, really hot bottle. And then you can snuggle with it in your sleeping bag if you're tent camping. Okay, Dave shares that Under Armour equivalent is his base layer for winter. I actually prefer merino wool as my base layer, or silk. I've had silk long johns in the past and merino wool. And now I've been wearing the Wool and brand of t-shirts now for a bit, at least a year, maybe 2, and they are lovely. They keep me warm when it's cold. They keep me reasonably cool when it's hot, and they're just such a nice thickness and such a nice shirt, and they don't pick up odors and things. So yeah. Any other comments? I'm gonna close us down here in a minute. And do leave a comment with other tips or what idea you found most helpful or surprising. And again, if you know of other heaters or other tips that you either found worked or didn't work, I know I've seen, like on Facebook, um, a lot of people recommending the little tea light with the inverted clay flower pot. But I've heard they do work. I've heard they don't work. I don't know. So if that's something that you've used, let us know. Carolyn says cats and dogs are definitely a way to help you stay warm for sure. All right. I'm so happy that you're all here. And don't forget, next week I'll be on at 1 p.m. Pacific. That's 4 p.m. Eastern with Kate White of the RV Queens podcast to share how to start your own podcast. Until next week, enjoy your journey.